Hi, everyone, and welcome to Knowledge of Spirit Radio, where we seek to find the hidden truth. I'm one of your hosts, celebrity psychic Jesse Bravo. With me is obviously the greatest host ever to have walked the earth, to ever grace us with his presence, his looks, his intellect, the famous and the most wonderful UK's top psychic TV and radio presenter, Alan Cox.
To be honest with you, Jesse, I don't think that introduction is good enough. Can you try a bit harder?
If we add an extra minute every week, it'll be good.
Okay. And I have got the carpenters here. They're making those doorways big, just as we're talking now.
Oh boy! Well, Alan, we had a wonderful time last week, didn't we?
Oh, I'll tell you something. It was awesome, Jesse, wasn't it? That guy in Canada got banged to right.
Well, you know what? It's really good. We want to let you guys know out there that we got an overwhelming response from our segment last week of Psychic Scam Busters segment, where we went out there and we called scam artists who pretend to be psychics who are looking to bilk and rob people, fraudsters. And we played the perfect victims on the radio, and then we revealed them to what they really are, which are just nothing more than the lowest pieces of human being that can possibly be on this face of the earth. And we exposed them for what they were, and Alan really got a good one out of Canada.
I did.
He got a true winner out of Canada. And but we do have some things that we want to talk about really quick. Guys, we have such an overwhelming response for our magazine. We thank you. We thank you so much. If you haven't put yourself, go to our website, knowledgeofspirit.com. Go to the contact section. Sign up for the free magazine. We have the best free magazine out there. Did I say, Alan, I did say free, right?
Not free.
It wasn't free. It was free. Free magazine. You're not going to get any better than that. We have the best contributors out there putting out great content for you guys. Please sign up if you haven't signed up. Please find us on Twitter. Find us on Facebook. I don't care where you are. Just find us because you need to find us. We have everything that you need that's out there. And we really, I have to say this, Alan, people really don't know this because when they hear us on the radio, they think all of this is easy stuff. But you don't understand that we have to go out there and we have to beg people, like our guest today, Mr. Ashworth, to come on our show. And I got a pair of knee pads I got to put on. And I got to beg. And I got to plead out there. Please, please come on our show. Please.
And do you realize he's only about an hour away from where I live, so he's up at the ungodly hour of 10 past midnight. Not like you, Jesse, early evening.
I know. And we got to beg these guys, our best guests out here, to come out for you listeners because we know that you could be doing something else on a Friday night, but you're with us. And more importantly, because we're putting out good stuff and you love us, you go out there and put the word of mouth because what did I say our goal was, Alan? What was it, like 4 million?
That's right, and we're on the way. We're on the way.
We want 4 million a week. That's what we want. That's a really good goal, and we think it's really achievable, and we're well on our way. And it can't happen without guys like you out there listening and playing on our podcasts or just playing it on the internet or finding us where we're at. So please find us. Please listen to us. We really work hard to bring you the best people out there. And without further ado, let me go a little bit into the story here. When I first met Alan, when you meet anybody in the world, you always talk about, especially in the psychic, in the spiritual, paranormal field, how'd you get here, right?
Yeah.
And so Alan put out this wonderful story back in 1996. He met this wonderful man, and the man awakened him to what he has today. And if it wasn't for this man, I don't know what Alan would be doing today.
That's right. I don't know what I would be doing.
I don't think if we had our moments, anybody would know what we were doing. I mean, I'm sure we have our guests, but that's not reality. We could speculate all we want. And so he came up to me, and Alan said emphatically, he says, we're bringing Dave Ashworth. We're getting him on here, and he needs to be on here. And I said, you know what? That's what's going to happen.
Well, I can see Dave's face right now, and he's regretting that day in 1996 that he opened me up to it all.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce you guys and let you recant and go down a little bit down memory lane, because that's what I like doing here, going to the past so that we can understand the present. And when we understand the present, then we definitely have a good way for the future. So I want to introduce our guest today, the founder of Emerald Heart, a visionary. I think he's coming up with a new idea every year, a new concept that people haven't figured out yet. And that's David Ashworth. I want to congratulate you, and I want to thank you so much for coming on our radio show.
Thanks, Jesse. Dave. Thanks for the invitation. Hi, Alan. How are you doing over there?
I'm doing all right, thanks, Dave.
Down in sunny Wolverhampton.
Actually, it has been sunny today. It's been rather hot.
Yeah,
it has been too much, isn't it? Too much. Yeah, I know your life now is totally altering to when we first met, like, was it 17 years ago now?
Yeah.
But it's been an incredible journey for myself since you opened me up, and obviously it's been an incredible journey for you.
Yeah.
But I know that when we first met, we met through me seeing you on a TV program on Channel 5 over here in UK, and I got in touch with Channel 5. And they gave you my contact details, you got in touch with me, and obviously I didn't realise then that was the beginning of an amazing journey. And you certainly set me on the road there, Dave.
Yeah.
So perhaps it'd be a good idea, forgetting about me on that journey for a moment, but from what I understand when we first met, it all happened to you a couple of years before. So would you like to take us through that, to how you became at the point you're at now?
Yeah, well, going back a long time now, nearly 20 years, I suppose.
Yeah.
I was an ordinary guy. I'm still an ordinary guy. You know, you meet me in the street, I'm just an ordinary guy. And I was busy running a couple of small businesses, so I was a small businessman, and working long hours, make ends meet, the usual story, and life just seemed to get more and more difficult. It didn't matter how hard I worked; I seemed to be going backwards all the time.
Yes, I understand that one.
What I did, it just went pear-shaped, And so I eventually entered into this kind of a breakdown that lasted about 3 years, but it wasn't really a breakdown. It was a breakthrough. It was the universe really saying to me, well, we put you on the earth for something very special now, and you've not really seen the signpost yet. So what we need to do is smack you on the back of the head, wake you up a little bit, point you in the right direction. So, when you're going through these kind of awakenings, people just happen along into your life and tell you what's going on and what you should be doing and who you really are, and none of it makes any sense. So that's kind of what happened to me. A girl came to work for me, and she took me to this mind, body, spirit event, and I was totally freaked out by all these people selling crystals and weirdos. There were psychics.
We're all dressed fairly normal.
Yeah. Oh, I was so scared of all this alternative stuff. I wouldn't even read my stars in the local newspaper. That's. But as you walk the path, you begin to realise where all that fear came from. And it came from messing around with power in past lives and coming unstuck a little bit. And so when you're given the power in the present life, you've learned a few lessons along the way. So that's really how it started. As I went through this 3-year breakdown, it was kind of like a year breaking down, and a year along the bottom, and a year coming out the other side. And as I was coming out the other side, what happened there was I began to I began to see energies. I began to see the ley lines in the earth and the auras around trees and the auras around people. And over the years, this depth of vision has just constantly increased to the point where I was working with a client one day when I was a healer. I ran a very successful healing practice for many years before I became a teacher, spiritual teacher. And I was working with a client one day, and the guidance kept saying, go deeper into the heart, deeper. And I kept trying to get deeper. I was saying, I can't get any deeper. And they kept saying, let go, let go. And I got to this point where I thought, if I let go anymore, I'll actually let go of life. I'll be dead. And just as I had that realization, something kind of went pop. And I went right through this person's heart. And I came out into a universe inside the person. And immediately, kind of, the mind expansion at that point is phenomenal. And for several days after such an experience, you just can't speak. You can't explain it to anybody, because as you try and put it into words, you just can't find the words to explain the experience. But I remember thinking at that very moment in time, as I went through this heart and into a universe, it's like I was traveling through this universe at great speed of light maybe, I'm not sure. And I remember thinking, this is the macrocosm inside the microcosm that the mystics speak about. You know, it's like this endless tunnel of different realities where you can enter through the consciousness of a person, and through that person enter into the consciousness of a universe. And you can travel that universe and go into the consciousness of other people or other beings, and again through the hearts of those. And it just goes on forever. And as I say, when you have these kind of experiences, the expansion within you is phenomenal. And once you've touched that expansion, after a period of time, maybe a week or two, your consciousness comes back to its everyday reality again. But you find that once you've opened that door, it always remains open to you. You can go through it any time with another person. But when I speak about any time, it's only if it's appropriate. It's not kind of, you're not given these gifts or these powers to play with. It's only if it's appropriate to assist humanity or that particular person. So, starting right at the beginning, you know, where I knew nothing, was too scared to even look through the door, to, you know, ending up really where I am today, which is a spiritual teacher.
Dave, can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Now, when you entered into this person's universe, was it their personal space that you were seeing, or was it just entering into the universe as a whole?
Universe as a whole.
Okay, so it's sort of like when you talk about quantum physics, membrane theory. Is that something that would be the most appropriate to call it?
I'm not really sure what a membrane theory is.
It's a takeoff of the 80s theory, which is called string theory, which essentially that everybody is connected to the universe. So essentially when you go into somebody's heart and you went into the universe, essentially you were connected to everything.
Yeah, that's right, to everything, absolutely,
okay. Wow.
So it's that kind of momentary experience where you start to experience everything, but through the consciousness of another person. And that became it became very interesting to me. This as I've worked with many people over the years, what I've discovered is the way you go through the greatest shift is by working with another person. The experiences always come through working with another person. Yeah. And I began to understand this in a greater way, really, where if you look at the concepts of unity and separation, here we are in this separation from the God consciousness, but it's only our consciousness which is separated from the greater. So the guidance kind of taught me that we're really functioning on what they call a lesser God consciousness, and the everything around us, the universe and everything else, is the greater God consciousness. And the way to bridge this gap is always working through another person. When you work through another person, it's much easier than making that connection by yourself, because part of the plan for humanity or for human consciousness is to return to unity. And so as we're trying to return to unity, the only way we can do it really is connecting with each other.
Now, whose plan is this? So when you say plan to return, is it God? Is it the universe? Whose plan is this?
Well, this word God's always a tricky one, isn't it? What does it really mean?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Well, you know, when we speak of universal consciousness or the Great Spirit or God, it's all the same thing, really. It's just the same thing, and it's just consciousness. So if you think about us as, if you think about us at a cellular level or an atomic level or a particle level, there is that spark of consciousness at whatever level you look at, and the only thing that separates, you know, the consciousness within an atom within us, the only thing that separates that from the consciousness of everything is maybe one small doorway, and all we're trying to do is learn how to open that doorway. So if you think about body intelligence, for example, the body's pretty smart, you know, it can sort most things out for itself. We kind of take it for granted as human beings. You know, we get up every day, we go to work, we do our thing, we come home, we go to sleep, we regenerate, and all this consciousness is functioning by itself and taking us from A to B. It takes us through a lifetime. So, you know, the physical body might be an expendable vehicle, if you like, but the consciousness just goes on. I think one of the most amazing things I ever saw was just a few years ago, about 3 years ago. And I was preparing to do a spiritual retreat, and a friend of mine at the time said, wouldn't it be nice to do some shamanic stuff with some oak wands from oak trees? And I said, okay, well, you know, I live by my own in a cottage. I live by myself in a cottage, and it's surrounded on three sides by oak woodland. I'll go in the woods. I'll see what we can find. And we needed about 30 wands, you know, nice long pieces of oak. And I couldn't find very much. And, you know, I thought, oh, this is going to be impossible. It's absolute waste of time. Anyway, a couple of days later, as I was driving out of the lane, it's a little single-track lane. I came around the corner, and 2 huge oak trees had been cut down and were laying in a field. Well, the pain I felt for these trees was just absolutely just overwhelming. I had so many emotions, from anger to sadness, the whole range of emotions, but I couldn't stop because I was going to meet somebody. I went and met them. Half an hour later, I was back. I parked the car, came down to see the trees because I was still very distraught about these 2 beautiful oaks just being felled. You know, 200-year-old oaks felled in this field. And I climbed up onto the trunk of this tree and walked along the tree. And there in the field were all the wands snapped off the oak tree, just lying on the ground. I went and gathered them all up. There was 28. And the other 2 were the 2 I'd found in the woods the week before. So it's like God says, hit your wands.
Incredible.
But a couple of days later, it was windy that night. I was gonna light a candle for the spirit of the tree, but I just said a few prayers and did a few little rituals around the tree, and then I left it. And the next night, I went and just laid a candle on the tree stumps. And as I was standing there the following night, which was kind of 3 days after the trees came down, I saw the spirit of the tree leave the root system and go back into the universe. And again, this is something you can't really describe, but it was just standing there 1 minute, just in a place of reverence and respect to the life of the tree and giving thanks. And all of a sudden, this energy just surged out of it, and it just like it went back into the universe. And in that moment, you kind of see how the spirit of everything, when the living form like ourselves, whether it's us or a tree, the living form, when that form has finished its state of beingness, that spirit just goes back into this ocean of everything in the sky, you know, in the universe. It was just absolutely stunning. And again, when you see something like that, it expands the heart. You know, the consciousness we're speaking about all the time is the consciousness of the heart. It's nothing to do with the mind or the brain or anything else. It's the consciousness of the heart. So as the consciousness of the heart expands, each time it goes through an expansion process, it's just taking you to a higher plane. But, you know, on an everyday level, you're being the same person, but your consciousness is expanding. When you need to utilize that, the expansion of that consciousness in spiritual teaching or helping somebody in some way, then it's there. It just literally switches on. But other than that, you're just the same old everyday guy.
So keeping
yourself firmly grounded.
Well, in a way, Dave, I suppose it's like a form of telepathy, isn't it? That you're connected and you know what somebody else perhaps is thinking, or you know what that tree is thinking. I don't mean a brain like ours, but the vibrations from it.
Yeah, perceptions, vibrations, communication. The communication comes in all kinds of levels. I tend to pick it up emotionally with trees. And what if I do shamanic work, for example, with students? A student might come for the day and we'll do various things, but we'll certainly spend some time with the trees in the woodland, and the trees will call to a person and they'll start to work on that person. They'll open a person's consciousness. They'll cleanse them. They do all kinds of different things. So, you know, this is something we can all learn to do. And, of course, this is where humanity has lost its connection with the consciousness of the various structures or beings of Earth. You know, we've lost our connection there.
David, is there such thing as like you know, they talk about them all the time. I've personally never seen one, so that doesn't discount that they do not exist.
Mm-hmm.
Pixies, like these little fairies, do they exist?
Yeah, they exist. Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually experienced that.
Okay.
It's in the Forest of Dean, and I was at a psychic fair, and I was giving readings, and there was just four of us giving readings, and there's about 20, 25 people waiting for readings in this big hall, and everybody in that room felt this like surge of wind going in and out of our legs and all the way round. And the owner of the hotel came in and he said, "Oh yeah, they want to know what's going on in here." And it was the most bizarre experience. But oh yeah, they exist, Jesse.
But you felt the energy, but you didn't see an actual thing.
I didn't see it, but it was so strong that everybody was in that room could actually. It created that the curtains moved, that the cloths on the tables moved, and you felt it against your legs, and everybody, there was a kind of an upsurge of what's going on, like almost everybody was shouting, what's happening? So no, I didn't actually physically see, but the energy was just incredible.
Now, Dave, were you able to actually ever see one of these things?
Yeah, I've seen many things, yeah. So what happens in the nature spirit kingdom is, let's just call it spiritual energy. So they're spiritual beings. They're beings without bodies, you know. People can see auras, so they know energetic fields exist. So they're spiritual beings. But quite often, the way they present themselves is, it's kind of an energetic image, and what this energetic image can do, because it's kind of a higher consciousness at certain levels, it will see within your consciousness what you actually recognize, and it will present itself as that being, so you know what it is. So, you know, it might just be a cloud of energy, for the want of a better description. But, you know, maybe you might recognize an image of a pixie, so it will present itself to you as a pixie. It might present itself to me as a fairy. It might present itself to Alan as a gnome. So it will present itself usually as something you can recognize. So you know you've encountered an energetic being, but it's imprinting itself so you can identify what that being is.
Oh, that's interesting. And, you know, that's true because, you know, as we all know, Spirit uses our own filters to communicate with us because, you know, they know our mental library better than we do very often.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. I just think it's kind of weird that a lot of people, they draw the nature energy as always like the pixie or the fairy, or this beautiful woman always with blonde hair. So I don't always get it sometimes. why there's a consistent theme that way. But I definitely understand what you're saying.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with your own imagination. What would you like to bump into in the woods?
I'm scared of what's in the woods. I wouldn't even go in the woods at night. You can't pay me to go in there.
Dave,
I'm afraid of what's in there.
Dave,
I wouldn't go visit Dave in the woods. It wouldn't happen.
I'll tell you, when I moved into this cottage a few years ago now, I had to sleep with the lights on. There's no way. I was so frightened. And, you know, I'm a city boy, and I'm living out, you know, in the tiny cottage surrounded on three sides by woodland. I was sleeping with the lights on. It was terrifying.
Oh, my God.
You get to know the energies. And, of course, one of the energies which was very strong, and it came back to me with childhood experiences as well when I began to understand it, one of the energies is the god Pan. So the word panic comes from Pan. The energy of the god Pan creates panic in human beings until you actually know what it is. So that's why people get scared stiff of going in the woods at night, because at night the energies are stronger. Yeah. When you know how it works, it's all common sense.
Absolutely, that sounds logical to me. I like that.
So all this is going on, Dave. So when did the Wheel of Light? When did you realise that the Wheel of Light was there? The contact.
I was working as a healer at the time. I'm no good on dates. I can't go back through my life and think, oh, I was doing such and such and such a year. It doesn't compute. But after I'd gone through this awakening, I'd met people. They said, Dave, you're here to be a healer. You know, I said, not me, not my kind of work. That I definitely don't want anything to do with the healing or touching people or whatever. But essentially, they were right and I was wrong, and I ended up with this amazing healing practice that I ran for a number of years, and right from the start, really. Which I mean, I met you quite early on, Alan, in that process.
That's right.
And early on in this process, the power that was coming into the room, it's like it wasn't coming through me, but it was coming into the room. And it used to knock the clients out completely. I used to be taken completely out of my body for about an hour at a time.
Wow.
And then
you do that when you come to our house, Dave.
No.
He sits in the chair and he falls asleep. I think with that boring.
Well,
I'm sorry, carry on.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've had to stop visiting people because it's just embarrassing now. Yeah, so we'd be taken out of our bodies, and I used to come back into consciousness and then make some notes. The guidance would give me notes on what had been happening with the clients. And then one day, as I came back round, there were some beings in the room. They stood about 8 feet tall. They were cloaked. I couldn't see their faces. And again, this comes back to this consciousness working through other people. It's the interaction between me and the client that's allowing this whole scenario to take place. And these beings then brought this light called the wheel, which they called the Wheel of Light. This is the Wheel of Light. And it's quite interesting because they showed me how it would eventually work. And they said it'll be like a wheel. You'll be in the center. There'll be spokes leading out to these other people. The light will travel down these spokes to these other people, and it will go out into the world in this way. And I'd forgotten all about this because so many other things happened over the years. And then recently, I came across some illustrations that I had done of how this whole wheel thing works. And I suddenly realized, of course, that's exactly how it works today. So they're giving it me, you know, time had passed, and then, you know, I'd forgotten all about it. And there it was, you know, this is what we gave you.
It was there all the time.
Yeah, it was there all the time. Yeah, and these beings kind of, I suppose, initiated me, and I haven't got a clue who they were, where they're from. I've never seen them before, and I've never seen them since. But at that moment in that room, they brought this in, and I think it was within a couple of days. They kind of didn't tell me it was the Wheel of Light at that moment. A couple of days later, I woke up one morning, and as I sat up in bed, I got this vision of like a blazing cartwheel on fire. I said, "What's this?" And that's when I was reminded about the beings that had come, and they said, "This is the Wheel of Light. So you will bring it into the world." So that's how that came to be. And although I work with the Emerald Heart, and my work is known for the Emerald Heart these days, we still use that frequency of light, and I began to understand that was given to me to literally burn my channels open, to expand me on a spiritual level, so that I could eventually receive the teachings of the Emerald Heart. And so I think that journey was probably about 5-6 years, something like that, of working with purely with those Wheel of Light energies, and it really was a burning process. It literally, it burnt me out eventually, and it was just so intense. And then in 2007, January 2007, was when I was given the Emerald Heart, and again that came. I'd kind of had some notifications some months before that there were going to be big changes in the January of 2007. And back in the September, I had a diary that was full for 3 months in advance, and nobody ever cancelled appointments because it took them so long to get one. And as I was putting the key in the door one morning and opening up the practice, the guidance said, "It's time to close the door and walk away." And I kind of thought, what did you do? This is my life. You don't just close the door and walk away. This is your life. So anyway, I got home that night, and my partner said, "Well, we've had a couple of people cancel their appointments today. That's strange." And then the next day, a few more cancelled. Within 2 weeks, 3 months worth of people have cancelled their appointments.
Oh, God, wow.
It was like, and when they say it's time to close the door and walk away, they close it for you. And so January came, and the end of September came. I had nothing to do. January came. I knew I'd got 4 more clients that were coming back later on in the January to finish off some processes that we'd begun. And I saw the one person, and then the second person came. And as he walked through the door, the guidance said, "This will be the last person that you practice healing with." And I kind of chuckling, saying, "Well, I've got 2 more. I've got 2 more." And of course, they cancelled by the end of that day. So January came, and then the end of January, I was counting the days in January, and it was about the 28th of January, I think. Again, I woke up one morning, this blazing light in front of my eyes, and it was this heart-shaped, faceted crystal. It was an emerald, a heart. And I kind of thought, it's blatantly obvious what it was, but it took me about 2 weeks to get the name. I said, "What is this? Is it green light? Is it the crystal? Is it, what is it?" And the intensity of the light that came at that time, it just lit me up for about 3 or 4 days, absolutely on fire. And then for about 3 or 4 weeks, a little less intense. And for 6 months, I did nothing but write the teachings that came with this light. And those teachings seem to be, in a large part, for me, because I've tried to teach some of this stuff to many, many people. And to be honest with you, they find the path too tough. It's a tough path. But it is a true spiritual path. And a true spiritual path does open you up, and people find that, they like to walk the spiritual path, but they don't want to do the tough stuff. And
like
so
finding out who they are. That's
that's right. Finding out who they are.
And sometimes we have...
Oh, sorry about that, Alan. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to say we have this persona that we think is us. and how many of us actually go really deep down and find out who we really are? And is that what that is what your work brings? I'm sorry, Jess.
Essentially what the Emerald Heart Light does is it illuminates the truth in the heart. So the heart only contains a few aspects. So it contains fear, which is the unresolved fear from that's been generated in this life or from previous lifetimes. There's a very deep place that I've been shown in the heart, which the guidance calls the well of fears. And I can remember clearly the first time I saw it, going down into somebody's heart, deeper and deeper and deeper. And I suddenly kind of fell into this pit. And I said, what's this? And they said, this is the well of fears. Well, what's that? Well, you'll find out, kind of thing. And over a period of time, they take you in a little deeper and they show you. And the well of fears is a little bit like a bank vault. And it has every unresolved issue that you've ever had in any lifetime, whether it's just human lifetimes or even lifetimes as other kind of beings in other existences. And so everything that is unresolved is in that bank vault called the well of fears. Now, while ever it's in there, it doesn't cause you any problems because it doesn't interfere with this life. But what happens in the process of illumination is the items in this well start popping out into the aura. And as soon as they appear in the aura, they then become active within this life. You can sense them at some level. And if they're very strong, they'll overwhelm you. And typically the things that come out of there are fears. And a very common fear for most people is the fear of being themselves. So if you think about how we grow and, just going through the school years, for example, humans very much behave in a tribal fashion. If you try and be a little bit different to the tribe, then, you're singled out and you're bullied or you're rejected or whatever. Yeah, so it becomes very difficult to be yourself. It's much safer to be one of the crowd, if you know what I mean. Mm-hmm. And so one big fear that affects many, many people is a real fear of being themselves. And, one of the things the Emerald Heart does is it starts to pull up your truth and says, well, who are you really? This is who you are. You've got to start being who you are, because otherwise you're living a lie. And all that's going to lead to is, illness and death. You're going to go nowhere if you live a lie.
Yes, I can see that. Yeah. And it shouldn't be so hard to be yourself, yet it can be the hardest thing to be.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, if we walked down the street and started telling, ordinary Joe public who we were and what we did, they think we were crazy people.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
plenty of that.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
but yeah. You see that we're at a point where we're meant to be, aren't we? Some of us suppress it and we don't go down the path that we're meant to. Others, like yourself, I don't know whether it's you're actually thrown into it. I suppose your inner conscious, in a way, knew that it was going to happen, so you accept it. Whereas others, they don't know, or if they do, they just close the door because it's just too much to take on. But would you say that this has been coming over centuries to you from previous lives to this point when you're ready for this?
Well, it's a good question, that. I think what's happened in my particular life is I've come from a series of quite dark lives into a life where I'm progressing very, very quickly. I'm passing from extreme darkness, if you like, into extreme light. And so the journey has been quite horrendous at times. I've been turned inside out and upside down so many times. And, it's anybody who's been through these kind of transformations knows it's a tough journey. But I absolutely know that I didn't have any choice. I think I'd probably become so addicted to darker aspects of previous lives that I wanted to maintain that type of lifestyle, probably lifetime after lifetime, until somebody up there in the sky said, you can't do that any longer. You know, your time for evolution is passing by. You've got to get on the bus and move forward. I think that's what's happened in my life.
Yeah. I'll tell you what I find quite interesting is that from meeting you on a personal note, you were known for doing clearings and going up and down the country and having your TV, being on the TV about it and what have you. And from that day that you opened me up when we was up at your house up in Manchester, and when you said my guide would be talking to me within 3 days, within another 3 days of that, I was at somebody's house doing a clearing, getting rid of demons.
Yeah.
And I find that quite amazing. I mean, most people, you know, they do some reading or they'll say, oh, can I try out some healing? No, not muggins here. Straight into somebody's home and getting rid of some demons. So thank you for that, Dave.
Yeah, roll right in at the deep end. It's the only way to do it.
That's right. So, you know, it's quite amazing, really, quite amazing. Yeah. And you've said different things to me over the course of the years, and like the last time you was here some months ago, that I suppose took a little bit of sinking in. But
yeah, I told you 3 times.
You did.
Before you heard it.
That's right. It's true. Oh dear me. Yeah.
And have things started to move now? You've addressed that.
Yeah, they have. Yeah. Thank you for that, Dave. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Now, Dave, let me just ask a very technical question here.
Okay.
I'm one who sees very deep into it, and that's my gift. But now you have this visitation by these unknown origins. Who knows where they could have been in the universe, what they are.
Yeah.
Then you get revealed this emerald heart, right? What is it really? I mean, I know the way that you saw it. You see it as an emerald heart. What is it really? What's the inner essence?
It's just a frequency of light. It's just a specific frequency of light or consciousness or light and consciousness. So, you know, in healing circles, many people know of Reiki, which is a frequency of light, yeah? It's a healing frequency. Where Emerald Heart differs, it's a frequency that enables you to see into consciousness. So, you know, we've got... there's a very specific difference between energy and consciousness. You know, we quite often learn how to interact with energy on many levels as we're starting to walk our own healing path, or even learning to become healers. We start working with energy, and the higher echelons of energy become light, and then we move up into consciousness, and each vibration is finer than the other one. So, for example, you know, I used to work with a lot of crystals in the early days because I had this affinity with them. I could speak to them, I could communicate with them, they could communicate with me. I could get the power out of them, I could get them to do all kinds of different things in the healing process. And then guidance started to move me towards essences, like bark flower remedies, but creating my own essences, and they would send me all over the country to sacred sites to harness a vibration and create a little essence out of it. This is a kind of typical example, a little bottle of essence.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's created at a sacred site, or just ingredients from a sacred site?
Originally, I would just harness the vibration from a sacred site. So I was sent on this mission basically to sacred sites all over the place. Europe, the pyramids, a lot of the old stone circles and that, holy wells, place like that in the early days. And I began to then understand that the vibration that could be held within an essence was much finer than the vibration I could get from a crystal. Crystals were quite powerful and a kind of rough, robust vibration. The essences were kind of a super fine, silky vibration. and they were so fine that they would open the consciousness of a person. So I was given these basically tools to start opening the consciousness of people. And when I was working with these before, I was given the light, which we call the Emerald Heart. So as the light from the Emerald Heart came, it's like I'd already served a kind of apprenticeship with the tools that I would need to use with that light. So what the essences do is they enhance the light, or you could look at it the other way around and say the light enhances the essence. But what happens is the two forms of consciousness work together to create a result within the person. And so the person takes usually drops of essence for about a month, and during that process they'll go through a conscious shift. Sometimes it's quite a major shift, and at other times it's a smaller shift. Okay. But essentially it's usually a life-changing shift.
All right. Let me ask you this, and you know, I have to I've always got to be the timekeeper, Dave.
Okay.
Because what's going to happen is that we have about 7 more minutes before we go to a break. So I never want to bring you into something that's so big and juicy that we have to stop you from wanting to really talk through it. So here's one of the things I will ask. When this person takes the essence, I can only assume this essence is just natural ingredients that you have infused a vibration into it. Am I correct in hearing what you said?
Yeah, it's basically liquid light.
Okay, exactly. The same way that a crystal will have been infused with the vibration as a memory that you would use as healing.
Yeah.
Okay, now for all the listeners out here, how can they get their hands on some liquid light?
I thought you wanted a quick answer.
I
thought it was a quick answer.
just give your website, Dave.
Well, you know, there's people in a lot of corners of the world that are trained and provide these. You know, you're in New York, I think, Jesse, aren't you? We have a girl, Lynn Shaw, in New York.
What is it? In Queens or something?
Yeah, Queens. Yeah.
She's in Queens, right?
Yeah. Hi, Lynn in Queens.
Well,
but you know, we have a blog site which is emeraldheartlight.com. Takes you to our blog, and on this usually every 6 weeks tells you what the universe is doing and how you can align with it. And so we provide an essence of the period, as we call it, that helps you align with the changes in the universe at that moment in time.
Okay. Well, and guys, I want to let you know I'm willing to put my money where my mouth is. If you look into the camera there, I am willing to go out there, and I'm willing to buy a little bit of this liquid light, depending on what my pocket can afford. And I'm willing to take this and see what it happens for me. And if you're out there, and if this is vibing with you, if this is something that you're looking for, and of course there's no quick fixes for anything, but if you're willing to at least start, because this is what it's about, Dave. It's about starting on a journey.
Yeah.
If you're willing to at least start on this journey for 30 days, I believe Dave has plenty of programs and ways to continue your progress going forward until you get to wherever you need to go. Am I correct, Dave?
Yeah, that's it in a nutshell. Very good, very accurate.
Well, we try to be here. We're only allotted 2 hours here, so the stuff that we're talking about here, especially you, I mean, they write books and books and books in quantum physics and understanding of vibration and understanding of just lots of philosophy. That's really what it comes down to, and understanding.
Well, Dave hasn't mentioned that he's written some really good books as well.
How many books have you written, Dave?
I think I've written about 6 or 7. I'm not quite sure.
Okay.
I lose count of them. Yeah, when I've written them, they kind of become history. Yeah, but there's a couple in there that are really, really good books. There's a book called Vision, which is don't know whether you can see it on the camera.
My vision is good for vision.
Yeah,
I've got that one, and it's a very good book. Very good.
It's a little book. And there's there's a Keys of Transformation, which is it's a kind of, it's the beginning of a journey. It's about 300 pages, quite small text. There's a ton of stuff in there, and it kind of it takes you on a journey that I went on as I kind of went back in time through working with clients and working with people. As I'm working with people, I can quite often see into the consciousness of wherever I need to go at any particular time, wherever guidance wants to take me. And what happens in that process is it began to show me how the healing light was coming into the planet over the last 100 years or so, and how you can plot this in kind of everyday terms that people can see, you know, from rock and roll appearing in the 50s, and it quite often catalogues it through musical changes, and how you know, the time when Hendrix came, he burst onto the scene for a very short period of time, but he didn't need to be here any longer. He changed the whole face of music in that 3 or 4 years. And that was 1967. And that's when the guidance said, well, you know, this was a major shift point in 67. And from that, consciousness began to change very quickly. You know, people really did begin to drop out, find themselves, walk different paths, become different people. That's when the old paradigms were really being shattered. You know, if you go back and you think about Elvis, the police were in arms and banning him from the town, you know, when he was trying to give concerts in the early days.
Yeah. Right, well,
so,
Dave,
so Keith, yeah.
I got to stop you, because this is what's going to happen. We got 1 minute until our break, but I want to ask you, when we come back, if we do get a caller who wants to call in, will you be able to touch their consciousness all the way over there in England to wherever they are around the world?
Well, I can do that, yeah, but it's not some kind of party trick. You know, I kind of...
Right. Okay. I just wanted to know what the capabilities were. Okay, because we always like to go to the lines, but we have about a minute here. I just want to just pay these bills here. You're listening to 107.7 FM, New Orleans. You're listening to Knowledge of Spirit Radio, because we get picked up by all these affiliates from around the world who don't pay us any royalties, who should be paying us some royalties. But it's okay, because a lot of great people get to listen. So we thank you guys in the UK, Canada, the United States, Japan, China, India, Asia, Africa. It seems like we're in every part of the world right now. I think right now, Alan, we're in 152 countries.
That's pretty good. Not bad.
That's how we roll over here. So once again, guys, go to our website, knowledgeofspirit.com. Find us on Facebook, on our fan page. Find us on Twitter. Find us on LinkedIn. And drop us a line. Sign up for the free magazine. We're going to see you guys in 10 minutes, and we'll be back with a very dear friend, David Ashworth, with an Emerald Heart. We thank you guys. Alan?
Yes, thank you very much indeed, and I'm looking forward to the second half of the show, so don't go anywhere.
Yeah, stick around, everyone, and welcome back to Knowledge of Spirit Radio, where we seek to find a hidden truth. And once again, is Jesse Bravo and Alan Cox as your hosts. And, you know, thank you for coming back on this nice short break. And unfortunately, we don't always have a lot of time at the back hour, which is the second hour, because we do finish 5 minutes to the hour. So I always like to have lots of great things to say, but I just don't have time to say it right now. So I'd love to get back to our guest, which is England's own Dave Ashworth, which started the Emerald Heart, which he's now training. And I'm going on his page, and Dave, you know, you got a lot of people who have trained in your system, and they seem to be training and practicing along the world, because I have people here in the United States, Switzerland, Sweden, Netherlands, a lot in Germany, France, Australia, and, of course, there in the UK. Now, that's a lot of people who really have taken to your system, and you said it's not an easy system. It's not some type of book you read and you do a couple of courses. You got to live the life, which is not so easy to walk that path.
Yeah.
And I think because of that reason, our numbers over there in the UK, over 200,000 people are right now listening from midnight to 2 a.m., thank you so much. I know that you're sipping your tea. You're listening to us. You're having a great time. And we thank you guys, because without your support, what would the radio station be without us just really talking? So we really thank your support over there in the UK. We have massive numbers, obviously, here in the States and Canada, all over. It's just wonderful to just have a breakdown. We got a breakdown before. So, you know, Dave, we were just talking about before about, you know, the Emerald Heart and the vibration and the light and, you know, and what you take to sort of bring you into the consciousness. And yeah, I know you just explained it to me, but can you explain it to the people out there how it's taken? So you take this for 30 days when there is a new. Explain this, please.
Yeah. So around about every 4 to 6 weeks, I'm kind of taken into the universe and shown universal consciousness and how it's moving and changing in that moment in time. So it's kind of like getting a download from the universe, and it's showing you the patterns. So sometimes there are extreme accelerations. Sometimes there's kind of almost like a twin vibration coming through from the universe, and one vibration is offering certain opportunities, and another vibration might be crashing old patterns in people. So it's different all the time. You do get repeat patterns in the vibration over a period of about 3 years. You'll see the same pattern appearing a couple of times. And so as I'm taken into the universe and shown what's actually happening, I type this up as guidance, and we publish this free in the blog, which is at www.emeraldheartlight.com. The blog is run by one of our colleagues, Ian Mills, in Sweden. He does a great job, and he's been running that blog for a few years now. And in fact, Ian's been working with me probably for about 12 years, I think, and backing me up on all kinds of different things on the technical side. He's a great guy. So he uploads the guidance into the blog, and the guidance also gives us, the universe also gives us an essence of the period. And this essence of the period, as you take it over a period of about 30 days, it aligns your consciousness with the consciousness of the universe for that specific period of time. And it kind of carries you through until, you know, for about 4 to 6 weeks, until the universe gives us another download of information. It says, here you are, this is what's happening, here's a vibration, prepare a bottle, Dave, to create this essence that we're going to give you, and then, you know, this will help bring these people in alignment with the universe. So we've been doing it for about 5 years now, this particular process, and it's been absolutely phenomenal. You know, we have regular people that have been with us all that time, and they send great feedback on, you know, how they can really feel it. You tend to feel it very powerfully in the first week, and then you don't feel it quite as much because you're coming into alignment with the vibration. So you've got kind of two streams coming into alignment. So as it comes into alignment, you don't feel the effects very much. So people that are very sensitive to energy feel it the whole way through. People that aren't as sensitive to energy might feel it for the first 3 or 4 days or maybe a week, but it's still working regardless of whether you can feel it or not. The trick with consciousness is it's so subtle that it does take you quite a long time to become sensitive enough to really feel what's happening. But, you know, this is the nature of opening the heart. So the Emerald Heart is all about opening the consciousness within the heart so you can feel more clearly the truth of everything around you, including your own life, your own self, your own truth.
And I know this isn't about numbers and finance, but for people out there so they have an advanced knowledge, because, you know, last thing you want to do is get surprised by a number and, you know, you order a bottle, it's like $5,000, I can align myself with the universe. There's essence here, ballpark figure. What type of amounts of money are we looking at?
Nothing less than $10,000.
A drop.
What are people looking at in terms of cost?
In UK pounds, it's £17 a bottle, plus P&P. So if we're sending them out to the USA, I try and get most people to order them from Lynn if we can, in New York if they're for the USA, because it saves time on the postage and the essence travelling, of course. But £17, I suppose, is about $23, and it's a little dropper bottle like an eyedropper, and you just put a couple of, people might know Bach flower remedies. I don't know whether you can see this little dropper bottle here.
Yeah.
And it's similar to the concept of a Bach flower remedy, really, but very different in its content. Well, liquid light, we were describing it as before, and basically that's what it is. It's light harnessed within the liquid. And you put a couple of drops in a glass of water 3 times a day, in the morning, when you get up, when you go to bed, somewhere in the middle of the day, and it's just constantly feeding the vibration into you, and you know, doing its thing.
Yeah.
Now, people who wish to go further with this, because I'm sure there's going to, you know, Dave, we deal in a world where people want results now, right? Yeah. So there's just going to be a couple of people out there that will just order the essence just for ordering essence sake. But there are other people who say, you know what, let's go a little further, because maybe the essence is not the whole thing. Let's go a little bit further. So if somebody wants to take themselves further down the path, do they sign up for a course? Do you teach like a program? How does it work with the entire Emerald Heart?
Well, we have a kind of stepping stones approach into coming into the Emerald Heart. So in the early days, I tried to teach this just to any people that were spiritually minded that came along, but nearly always, I wouldn't say it failed, but it challenged them too much. Some of the concepts were too challenging. So our first stepping stone is teaching people how to host gatherings. So what we do in a gathering is anyone who is kind of spiritually minded and would like to start a small group, a small meditation group, etc., you have an evening which is going to be an Emerald Heart gathering, and you can present that any way you like. You can bring yourself into that, but what I do is I seed the light of the Emerald Heart into their heart for the period of the gathering. And this is usually quite a phenomenal experience for people, because the first time they really don't know what to expect, but that light usually comes in quite strongly into the heart, and the guidance comes through the light, and they suddenly start to find their speaking guidance, their speaking stuff which isn't them, and it's a really strange phenomenon, because you're listening to this stuff speaking through you, and when people haven't experienced what channeling pure guidance is like before, it's quite interesting. And, you know, in a first event, typically, quite a lot of people end up in tears, because it bursts the heart open and starts to release stuff. And it's like, let's get this stuff out. You know, how can you fly if you're carrying all this baggage? Yeah. So we can teach people how to do this remotely with a manual and some telephone support if there's nobody nearby. But we do have teachers in, you know, most countries that can give them an introductory course to hosting, and that's where we start it, basically. We don't take anybody any further, except in kind of exceptional circumstances, where occasionally someone will come along who's done some very high-level work spiritually, and you can tell whether they're ready for it or not. But this is a great way in to being able to work spiritually with a very powerful light. And the thing is, as you're the host of that gathering and the light is coming through you and working through you, it's starting to open you up from day one, from the day you start it. And on our blog site, there's a list of all the gatherings and where they're being held. There's a constant kind of updated list of what's happening and where it is.
Is that view, the part where it says view connections? Is that where it is?
No, I think you might be looking. You're looking at the Emerald Heart site rather than the blog site. So if you go to emeraldheartlight.com, you'll come up with the blog site.
Okay, now I'm here. Now I understand. Yeah. Making a little bit more sense now. Here we go. Gatherings and events.
You yourself, Dave, you don't just limit yourself to the UK. You do go to different places in Europe, don't you, to do your teaching?
Yeah, we're having a spiritual retreat in Sweden in when is it? It's I'm not very good on dates. The girls who are organising this will be saying he doesn't even know he's coming or when he's coming. I think it's in September or August, end of August it is. August.
Right, okay,
yeah.
okay.
So yeah, we've got a 3-day retreat in Sweden, so that'll be very much connecting into earth energies, bit of shamanic stuff, bringing light in, lots of different things. The guidance will give me the teaching closer to the time, so I haven't really planned that yet. And we have a number of teachers who will also be presenting at that event. But yeah, this last 12 months or so, I've been in Switzerland for one event, Netherlands for 2 events, Germany for a couple of events, and just London, quite a lot of events there. So I have been getting around a lot this last 12 to 18 months, but the guidance is kind of sending me for a period at home now to recover from all the travelling.
Travelling, yeah.
We also have we have a group of teachers which are called the Council of Elders within the Emerald Heart, and this is a level that the guidance has created recently, and it's elevated 4 people and just started to pour the light into them in an incredible way. So they've been walking the path with me. One lad, Tim, who works from London, I think Tim has worked with me for, I don't know, 12, 13 years maybe, a long, long time. One of the girls in Munich, which is Yvonne, she's a relative newcomer, a couple of years, but Yvonne's consciousness is absolutely wide open and she's really got her finger on the pulse. Lynn, we mentioned, in New York. Lynn has worked with me first as a client before training, I don't know, maybe 7 or 8 years. And then there's Rosa in Sweden. These are key people in kind of key locations. So Munich, Sweden, New York, London. It sounds like an advert for perfume, doesn't it? Paris, New York, and London.
Absolutely.
But all these connections, Dave, how do you see it culminating? Is it going to be almost like a complete joining of souls? So we're all thinking on the same wavelength. We're all thinking from the same inbook, if you want to use that expression.
Yeah.
And do you see that in itself? The world at the moment, as everybody knows, especially in the far Europe, East and what have you, is going through a tumultuous time. Do you see ultimately that this connection with the Emerald Heart, with the Wheel of Light, will bring peace to this planet of ours?
Well, that's a good question.
I thought it was. I come up with them, don't I?
That's a big one, yeah. Where do you pull these out of? Where's this bag you pull these questions out of, Alan?
Yeah, you've been waiting all week for that one, right, Alan?
It just coming to my head.
Yeah. Well, I think Jimi Hendrix came up with the answer to that one, didn't he? When he was on one of the talk shows in America, I can't remember the name of the show now, but he said when it was something along the lines of when it was all about love and power, wasn't it? When people understand the power of love, I can't quite remember it exactly, or when the power of love overcomes the love of power, then there will be peace. That was it. And I kind of thought, sense. Just that one little line there, I thought kind of sums it up. People have a choice, yeah? You either pull the trigger or you don't. If you don't, you've got peace. If you pull it, you've got war. It's as simple as that. Yeah?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it doesn't even come into what a spiritual light does is it enables you to change yourself. So, there are people seeking light in this great awakening time in all continents of the earth. And the universe has seeded to us many different frequencies of light. It's awakened many teachers in this period. And, I'm just one teacher among many who's been given a unique frequency of light to bring into the planet. And that light attracts people who are ready for that particular light. And the light helps you to change yourself. So we're all on this path of self-illumination and changing ourselves. And you find the peace within yourself. And as you find peace within yourself, then that naturally radiates, the peace within yourself radiates through the aura into the lives of other people. People sit with me in a room. Like I sit with you in a room and go out of the body completely, or go to sleep, if you like to put it. Yeah, that's right. That's pretty peaceful.
Yeah, I suppose the truth. That's all right. I suppose the truth is, Dave, right, is that on this planet of ours, there's always going to be people who want to create mayhem, want to have trouble, want to have the power. But if more and more people find a way to actually empower themselves in a good spiritual light way, then ultimately the good will overpower the bad energies. So not trying to be flippant about it in any way, the more and more people that can connect and be on their spiritual journey, then ultimately it's got to be good for the planet, hasn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. And the species.
Yeah, and the species, yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
So if you think about the work that you're doing, Dave, you might be working on people on a one-to-one basis, or people working together in small groups. But ultimately, it grows and grows, and just in the few years that you've been doing it, you've seen it grow to different countries and to different continents. So if that carries on, and you've got other people doing their own thing as well to help the world, ultimately, the bad is going to have a bit of a kick up the backside, really, isn't it?
Well, yeah. But what you're seeing in the world at the moment is it's like the thrashing of a body in its death throes, really. These are the old patterns. It's the old regimes crumbling, isn't it? I mean, if you look at Egypt in the last week, they've not long had this prime minister, and he's out the door already. So they're not even getting a term in office anymore.
That's right.
Because people are saying, no, we don't want this anymore. It's not good enough. So I think. I don't know much about politics. I've never really been much interested in politics or the people in the game either. But if you look at how things are unfolding particularly in the Near East and the African countries and that, all the dictators and the despots are being overthrown. So there's just this cauldron of everything breaking down that was not good before. And one of the period we're entering into is the age of truth. Yeah. And so as you enter into the age of truth, people start to see the things that they couldn't see before. So, we had it's still going on now, but a couple of years ago, everybody was questioning the politicians in the way they were fiddling their expenses. They've been fiddling them for hundreds of years. But in the age of truth, now everybody's seeing it. I was seeing this when I was a lad.
Yeah, it's true.
So,
yes.
Yeah, so you're seeing this everywhere, where the people who are in public life are being held accountable, where they've never been held accountable before.
I suppose when it really started was the symbolisation of when the Berlin Wall was knocked down. That was the start of people starting to stand up for themselves, and that was quite a monumental thing, opening up Europe. And if you think about it now, it's gone from Europe down over to the east, and that's starting to go through a similar kind of thing. So the people are empowering themselves, and people are finding their beliefs that they're worth to stand up for.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and
so
anybody
Dave,
who gets...
Sorry about that, Dave. You know that you've been getting these downloads, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody out there is now listening, so this is the greatest platform. What was the most recent download so everybody could hear about?
It's on the blog. Go and read it.
Yeah, I know, but you know what? On the radio, people are so lazy. They don't want to go read sometimes. They just want to hear it.
Okay.
And so that's why we always like to try to put everything out there so that we try to make it so easy for everybody so they don't even have to click.
Okay, well, that was about, I think it was about 4 weeks ago. And literally, the moment I've written it, it's gone from my consciousness, unless I reread it in my everyday consciousness and learn it. So that one's gone. But what we're entering right now at this moment in time is a period of chaos. So you might find lots of things start breaking or not working. You might have found this over the last few days. We're entering a full moon, which is tonight, yeah? So this is the start of a new cycle in the smaller cosmos, as it were. But universally, the universe is kind of stirring things up. There's also a calm undercurrent as well. So there's almost like two streams of consciousness that are functioning at the moment. You can get caught up in the chaos on the surface, or you can kind of step out of that. And if you just step back from the chaos, so you might be in a workplace that's full of chaos, people have got issues going off everywhere, people are arguing, things aren't getting done, cases are falling apart, This is the chaos stream that's on the surface, and this is the pattern that will be affecting most people. But if you actually know that there's also a kind of peaceful pattern just below that, it's almost like you can just step out of that and become the observer. You can see it happening rather than being caught up in it. So that's actually what's happening right at this point in time, is this, you're seeing it around in world events. The world events are always reflecting this, but you can really see it in your own life quite often. So I would think that what a lot of people are experiencing from, where are we now? This is Friday, isn't it? Probably from about Monday, Tuesday of this coming week. That's when the chaos has started to hit humanity. So you find all kinds of stuff going wrong, things breaking, basically. Now, how that's going to unfold in the next 2 or 3 weeks, I'm not exactly sure. But what you get, I'll probably know by the end of this week. But what you get at the beginning of a chaos period is usually accompanied by a rapid acceleration in the universe. So what the universe tries to do is turn things over. So what you find is, if you've got relationships, and this will be coming up in the next 2 to 3 weeks, if you've got relationships that have got issues in them or serious difficulties, the ones with serious difficulties will absolutely fall apart. It's like you won't be able to maintain the illusion any longer that you're going to get through this when really the relationship is finished, yeah? And people kid themselves. It's too difficult to go out into life and start again, so they stay in the bad relationship. Well, the universe will be bringing pressure in the next 2 or 3 weeks to kind of smash that pattern where you have no choice but to get out of the destructive relationship. So, on the other side of that coin, if you flip that coin over, where relationships sometimes seem to have insurmountable difficulties, but in reality, if you just stop and talk to each other and say what the problem is, people sometimes just don't do this. If you just say what the problem is, sometimes the insurmountable is suddenly resolved. And everybody gets right back into that groove of harmony again. So it's like the universe has given us these options at the moment again, where you can stay in the chaos or you can step into the peace. And all you need to do to step into the peace is just sit down, just sit back, kind of switch off for a couple of minutes. Just go into that calm inner space. And suddenly you'll feel a separation between yourself and what's going on in the world. And if you can pull yourself back into that space, there is a place of inner peace within all of us. And with a little practice, you can get into that within seconds. You can just sit in that inner peace, and all of a sudden you can see it all happening out there. But guess what? You're not involved in it anymore. You're not getting caught up. Your emotions aren't getting wound up. You're not burning your mental energy. You're just sitting in the peace and letting it happen. So, we were talking about bringing peace to the world before. That's how simple it is to actually step out of the game. Everything that's happening out there is a game. It's dog eat dog, and everybody's trying to climb on the power wagon on everybody else's back. And if you just take a step back and sit in that place of peace for a couple of minutes, you suddenly find you don't need to be part of that game, and you really don't need most of the stuff that people are fighting for. But this is the ego within people. The ego is out there, and it's trying to grab. It's going to get more and more and more. What do you need all this more for? Yeah? All you need to do is sit back and be content with the stuff you need just to get on with life. And, there's the old saying, the universe provides what you need. It won't give you what you want, yes, but it'll provide what you need. Yeah?
That's very true those days.
Yeah. So this coming period, so let's say the period is from kind of where we are now for about 6 weeks hence. We've got these kind of two streams. One is very peaceful and calm, where you can step out of it, and you can feel that peace that the universe is trying to bring into the planet. And the other one is the acceleration that's turning everything over and creating the chaos. And so you can either get swept up in the chaos, or you've got a choice. It's like, you were speaking about war and peace before. You've always got a choice. You can choose to be in the chaos. You can choose to work for a boss that doesn't respect you. You can choose to degrade yourself in that way, or you can choose to walk out the door.
I've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's very strange, even though part of you thinks what's going to happen to me. And this happened at a time when I wasn't totally into, the spiritual path then. But I must have been on it, because it was like, well, I don't care what's going to happen. I'm not putting up with this rubbish anymore, so I'm off. And I've done it more than once. I've done it a couple of times in the years go by. Yeah. And
quite often,
and I'm still here.
When you find the courage to take that kind of step, you trigger a universal law. So you find within the heart, that's the seat of courage. Wizard of Oz and the lion, all that, looking for his courage, for his heart. Yeah. So we've got courage in the heart. We've also got fear in the heart, and the fear and the courage are like on the scales. When the fear is strong, the courage is down here. What you have to do is work very hard sometimes to bring the courage up. And what the courage does is it dissolves the fear. So fear of losing your job, fear of losing your income. But what you did there was you raised the courage to say, this isn't good enough for me. I'm worth better than this. I'm walking out the door. Yeah. And when you do that, when you raise the courage and you use it in that way, you trigger a universal law called the law of reflection. So when you step into your power, the universe reflects that power back to you, and it starts to create. It moves into a creation process whereby it's already trying to create something new for you, because you said you're worth better. Yeah. And so what happens is, you walk into that nowhere space, that nowhere land. I'm walking out the door of my job. I'm saying goodbye to my income. I don't know where the rent's coming from next. As spiritual teachers, we live on that bread line all the time.
Yes, that's true. That is so true.
You don't know that the rent is always there, but boy, it sometimes isn't the day before. Or the universe
a nail biter. It comes in the last second.
It's right, that is, Dave.
Yeah, but what the universe is always trying to do is just teach you to trust. Just trust it, yeah.
The one thing that I did learn from those two experiences is that there isn't anything to fear. And it's about being true to yourself. And in both cases, I was being treated wrong. And I put up with it for a certain amount of time. I thought, no, that's it. I don't need this. And I suppose if we all could take that kind of situation and see for what it is, because it's normally somebody who's trying to empower themselves at your expense.
That's right.
You know, so but once you actually understand yourself more, then there isn't really a lot to be afraid of. We create the fear ourselves, don't we?
That's right. Yeah, we do indeed. Okay.
Yeah. Wow. So that's most unusual for our show to actually have a moment of pause. But perhaps
it was, sometimes it's a moment of just reflecting to just try to understand what is said. So, you look back and just quantify it in your own life. Which I'm sure a lot of people out there right now listening to, and when they hear the words saying, yeah, where does this fit in my life? How does this apply to me? And how do I move forward? Because a lot of times people out there are everybody's stuck. Everybody's stuck somewhere doing something. We're stuck always on somewhere. We're never finished. There's no finish line. And when you think you're finished, that's when you die. So there is no finish line in the sense of life.
But then you haven't finished then. But you haven't finished
exactly. It's just another race.
Yeah.
The teachings never stop, and you stop never learning. And so people out there who are stuck are just trying to figure out, man, how the hell do I get unstuck?
Yeah.
And you see, the way that I see it is that that we as human beings create too many problems for ourselves. And we create them by, like what Dave said some time ago, we all want to be accepted and be part of the team, this human being species team, all doing the same thing. Whereas we're supposed to be individuals, and we're supposed to be living our lives that's right for us, and having the people with us who are right for us. And because if they're right for us, we're right for them. And like you were saying, Dave, when you get to a point where people shouldn't be together, then there has to be something that gives to make it so people can move on.
That's right. Well, that's the end of the learning process for those two people. So, the sooner they can dissolve that, then the universe can bring them new partners so they can get on with the next learning journey.
Yeah.
Relationships don't come to the end until they come to the end. And they only come to the end. It's like when life comes to the end. When life comes to the end, you've learned what you needed to learn. Yeah, you don't bail out until then. And it's the same with relationships. So, it's interesting. One thing I've observed through working in deep consciousness with people on a very close level over many years is that greater God consciousness of everything is trying to express itself through each person on this planet. So that expresses itself through the heart. So the heart is always telling you which path to walk or what to do or what to learn or go play the drums or go learn mathematics. And that God consciousness is trying to express itself in an individual way. It's not trying to express itself the same through everybody. It's trying to express itself in an individual way through each individual. And so what we need to do is embrace the individuality within each of us. And in that way, you're embracing that greater consciousness of the universe. It's just saying, here I am, use me, allow me to flow through you. And what people do is they get caught up in their own lives and they disconnect from this massive computer bank of consciousness that is everywhere, that is just trying to express itself. It's trying to live. You could say that God is trying to live his life through our lives. You could describe it in that way. And you can either block that or you can allow that to happen. And if you allow that to happen, you will benefit from it. But if you block it, you're going nowhere.
Oh, you're in pain. Matter of fact, it's even worse. You're in pain.
Yeah.
Because when you swim upstream, the stream always wins.
Absolutely.
It's interesting what you said there about God living through us. Do you see that we're here as an experiment? Is it an individual experiment or is it an experiment? Okay, are we like...
If this is one of God's experiments, it's not been a very good one compared with the rest of the universe. If you look into the rest of the universe, it kind of ticks over fairly sweetly. You know, the planets go around, the sun comes up every morning, the wind blows.
I certainly asked you some questions there,
no,
Dave.
it's not an experiment, but you are given free choice. Yeah.
But you see, the thing is, what I'm saying to you is that there's going to be people out there who are going to pick up on what you said and think, oh, hang on a minute, are we here just as an experiment, or are we here to learn about ourselves, right?
Or both.
Well,
why can't it be both?
Yeah.
You're here to learn about so much stuff. You just can't cram it into one lifetime. That's why you have to keep coming back.
That's right. Yeah.
About it like this. If you think about it like this, the universal consciousness is a force of creation. All it ever does is create. Yeah. And you think about universal consciousness, we might call the masculine or the God consciousness, the masculine consciousness. And the earth, the physical earth that we live on, is the feminine, the divine feminine, yeah? So, all the divine feminine does is create. If you look at what's happening on the surface of the earth all the time, it's always in a process of creation, yeah? So, it's birth, life, and it's decay, birth, life, and decay. But the decay is often feeding the next process of life. So it's always in a process of creation. The only thing that destroys is humanity.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Willfully destroys. So if you look at the light, so masculine consciousness is light, that's illumination. All that does is light things up, yeah? It lights things up within you. If you allow the light into you, it illuminates stuff, yeah?
Yeah.
The earth is where the energy comes from. That's where the power comes from. So all the power comes from the feminine. So she's giving you the power to create with. He's giving you the light to think and illuminate things with. Okay, what about this for an idea? Try this, yeah? So, you know, most of the stuff I've learned has been trial and error. You know, guidance says, try this, see does it work? Yeah. You know, if you don't try it. I remember when I've created my very first essences, I had a call with a chap in America who did readings. And the one thing I wanted to ask was, how will I know whether these essences are any good, whether they actually work? And his guidance said, intelligent testing. Oh, well, that's a good idea. I'll test it out. The answers are always simple and they're always common sense. Yeah.
We're getting very close to the end, aren't we, Jesse?
Yeah, we're getting close to the end. So, Dave, this is always where I like to say, when is your next event over there in the UK so people can find you? Because I'm sure, you know, over 200,000 people, I'm sure some people are going to find you over there in the UK. Yeah. How can they find you? Why?
Right. Well, what they need to do is go to the blog site, www.emeraldheartlight.com, and all the events are listed there. That's updated almost on a daily basis, and I'm just taking a little bit of time out for a couple of months, but we'll probably be having some events starting down in the London area later in the year, after the kind of summer holidays. But if they keep an eye out at what's happening on the blog site, and they just want to go to a gathering and experience the light firsthand, that's really, you know, a great way to start, just experiencing it. Okay. If they wanted to sample an essence, you know, they can go to my website, which is davidashworth.com, and they can find lists of essences there. Or again, they can check out the blog site, the guidance of the period, and see what the most recent essence was there.
Okay.
So there's lots of different ways if they just connect into the websites. Thanks very much, Jesse.
Well, Dave, can you give me a 30-second answer? Is this a possibility? I'm going to ask you a really quick question.
Go.
On all these essence with the practitioner, it sounds like they have different names, like a name like Michael, Wheel of Light. It starts and ends, and then the practitioner is a different practitioner. What is that all about? Real quick, 30 seconds.
I can't. What's it all about?
Like, why the different name? That's all I want to know.
On the do you mean the different names on the essences?
Yeah, it's like different names on all of the connections. Yes.
Yeah, right. Oh, on the connections listing.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Right, those are the people that are actually connected into programs. So programs are much deeper processes. On the connections database, that's a much deeper process. When you read that on the connections database, those are people who are linked in through a practitioner, and they just have their first name on there. So they're connected into the light, usually for a period of about 3 months. So they're on a program that's specifically targeted to change something in their consciousness.
Okay, cool. Now we got 1 minute left, and that's for us, Dave.
Right. So, thanks very much. It's been great being here.
Well, we're going to thank Dave so much for coming on the show. It was wonderful to completely understand in a big esoteric way, which is really good. Expanding in a way, really hard sometimes to keep up a little bit, but definitely so worth listening to, Alan, right?
Very much so. Very much
and,
so.
So
Dave's always good.
He is. Now, I want to say next week, where's my schedule? All right, my schedule. Here it is. All right. Wrong schedule. Alan, do you know what we have next week?
My mind is, it's nearly 2 o'clock in the morning here. My mind's good.
Oh, that's no excuse.
Hang on, let me have a look in my diary. Right?
Okay, next week it's Julie Pham. I know Julie personally. She's an energy healer. She works here in New York. It's going to be an awesome show, and she's going to explain her really rough start of how people get into all these great areas of paranormal and spiritual, but their life becomes so hard that they run back to what they were doing instead of running to what they should be doing, which is exactly what Dave was talking about, which is great because that leads right into next week. So we want to thank you guys, UK, United States, Canada, Russia, Africa, Tanzania, Australia, wherever the hell you are, you're listening to us right now. We thank you so much for being here with us now. We'll see you next week. Alan, you have anything great to say at the end?
Nothing. All I want to say is thank you very much indeed for letting us be on the airways, for Dave Ashworth joining us, my dear friend, and for you, Jesse, for being my greatest co-host.
Thank you so much, Alan.
God willing, we'll be here next week.
Well, see us next week on Knowledge of Spirit Radio. If it's Friday, you're with us. Have a good night.
Good night.